Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book The Diary of a CEO by Steven Bartlett. Now, this isn't just another dry business manual. It's really a collection of timeless principles for success, pulled from hundreds of conversations with some of the most incredible performers on the planet. All right, let's get into it. So Bartlett kicks off the book with this really powerful quote from Leonardo da Vinci, and it just perfectly sets the stage. The entire philosophy of the book, really, it all hangs on this one core idea, that true success, whether it's in business or your personal life, it starts and it ends with mastering yourself. So why this book? Why now? I mean, let's be real. The business section of any bookstore is just flooded with books that feel a little empty, right? They're either just feel-good fluff or these super rigid playbooks from an era that's long gone. Steven Bartlett offers something totally different. I mean, this is a guy who dropped out of university, was completely broke, and then went on to build a billion-dollar empire. His point of view comes from the messy, modern reality of building something from absolutely nothing. And here's the central idea of the whole thing. Bartlett's argument is that success isn't some magical random lottery ticket. He says it's a science. It's the result of really understanding and consistently applying a set of fundamental, timeless laws that govern how we all operate, connect, and build things.
Okay, so to make this all manageable, he organizes those 33 laws into 4 foundational pillars. You can think of these as the main columns holding up any successful life or business. Let's break them down real quick.
The first pillar, and the one he says is by far the most important, is the self. This is all about the inner game. It's about developing the discipline, the self-awareness, and the grit to lead yourself first. Because if you can't lead yourself, how on earth are you supposed to lead anyone else?
The second pillar is the story, and this is all about influence. Bartlett makes a great point here. The best product doesn't always win. The best story wins. So this pillar really digs into the psychology of marketing and branding to make your ideas not only heard, but actually stick with people.
Pillar number 3 is the philosophy. You can think of this as your personal and professional operating system. These are the core beliefs, the values that guide you when the pressure is on. It's the why behind your what.
And finally, we have the team. Because let's face it, business is a team sport. This pillar is all about the people. Who do you hire? What kind of culture do you build? And how do you inspire a group of people to chase a common goal? Bartlett says culture is the invisible glue that pretty much determines everything. Now, inside that first pillar, the self, there's a concept so important that it really deserves its own spotlight. Bartlett calls this the 5 buckets framework, and he truly believes it is one of the most critical things for building a resilient, long-lasting career. The logic here is so simple, but it's also really profound. You have to fill these 5 buckets in order. You start with knowledge, then you turn that knowledge into tangible skills. Only then do you start focusing on your network, your resources, and finally, your reputation. So many of us make the mistake of trying to jump straight to networking, but without that solid foundation of knowledge and skills, it's just impossible to sustain.
Okay, so we've got the high-level framework down. Now let's zoom in a little on a few of the standout laws to see how this stuff actually works in practice.
This brings us to what he calls the absurdity rule, and this is fascinating. His point is that in a world that is just so noisy, being a little bit better isn't good enough. You have to be different. His go-to example is Red Bull. He claims it was designed to taste a little strange, kind of medicinal, on purpose. That was to make it feel more potent than just another sugary soft drink. That's a useless absurdity, defining a brand better than any useful practicality ever could. And that idea connects perfectly to the wallpaper effect. Just think about it for a second. If your marketing, your message, your posts, if it all looks and sounds like everyone else's, you just become background noise. You literally become wallpaper. To cut through all that, your storytelling has to be unfiltered, unconventional, and definitely not repetitive. Now, let's take that kind of unconventional thinking and apply it to that pillar of the team. Here is a brutally effective framework for your company culture. For every single person on your team, you ask, are they a bar raiser, a bar maintainer, or a bar lowerer? And Bartlett's rule is simple. You promote the raisers, you coach the maintainers, and you have to let the lowerers go. It sounds harsh, I know, but he argues it's absolutely necessary to protect the very soul of the company. But it's really important to look at this whole philosophy from all sides, and there are some critics who've raised a very valid question about all of this. So the main critique is this. The book puts a huge emphasis on individual responsibility. The message is, if you just master these laws, you can achieve success. But the critics argue that this might be ignoring the very real systemic and economic forces that shape our lives, which could create a kind of survivorship bias. So the really important question for you to think about is this. Is Bartlett offering a playbook of timeless, empowering wisdom, or is this a very slick, modern repackaging of hustle culture that puts all of the pressure on the individual, for better or for worse? It's a tension that's really worth wrestling with. Ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway from this book is that it acts as two things. First, it's a mirror. It forces you to take a really honest look at yourself, your habits, your mindset, your whole philosophy. And then, once you've done that, it becomes a map, offering you a clear, actionable framework to build something better from that foundation.
And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. After exploring all these pillars and laws and frameworks, what do you think? Is success really a science that can be learned and mastered? Or, at its core, is it just a powerful story we choose to believe in and tell ourselves? Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.